Today we are going to be rating the best chronograph watches from under $100 all the way to over $10,000. And believe me, you can find some amazing chronographs for under $500, even under $300. I'm going to tell you how I'm going to be rating these chronographs. I'm going to be rating them on three aspects. Of course, the overall quality, the value proposition, and of course the heritage. And the heritage part will be more important when the watch is more expensive, of course. Chronograph watches are among the most beloved kinds of watches that we have, and especially lately we have seen many of them, predominantly on the lower end, notably AliExpress watches. But there are also some extremely popular watches on the higher end, and we are going to discuss those as well. As this is a value channel, we are going to be seeing more watches on the entry level, but of course we're going to be talking about those high-end legends as well. No high horology here, basically because I have not had experience with those high-end watches. Let's start the list right away with the below $100 class. The first watch of the selection is the Timex Weekender chronograph, and you can have this watch for around $50, 50 to 60 or 70, let's say, pretty much. This is a well-sized watch, 40 millimeters in diameter, 11.3 in height, 48.8 in lug to lug, and 20 millimeters in lug width. The pros with this watch: it is an elegant, timeless design, it is inexpensive of course, and you've got that lovely indie glow from Timex. The cons: you only get a mineral crystal in here with a brass case. That might be its biggest con though, although the brass case is coated in stainless steel. And of course, when you start the chronograph, you get a tick-in second, and I do not like that personally. As for the three aspects that we were judging, the quality is decent for a watch at this price point. The value is really good though. At $300 you get this very good looking watch. And what about the heritage? Well, it is quite good here, as Timex has been around since 1854, founded as the Waterbury Watch Company, a name that you can still see on some Timex collections up to today. Number 2 on the list, it is the Militado 1868, and this watch will only run you down about $66 to $75, depending on if you've got a sale going on or not. It is of course an AliExpress watch. You can also buy it on their own site. They have sent me one for review. You can of course find it in the link below. This is a 39mm watch by 12.2mm in height, 46.5 in lug to lug, and 20 in lug width. The pros: you've got a very nice Seiko VK67 in here, and that is a mecha quartz movement, which indicates that the main timekeeping is done by a quartz movement, and on top you've got a mechanical module, which makes it that the chronograph part really behaves like a mechanical chronograph. Continuing with the positives, you've got that sliding chronograph hand once you press those very nice pushers. You've got an excellent dome sapphire crystal with anti-reflective coating. You've got a very nice bicolor lume, and you've got 100 meters of water resistance, courtesy of those screw-in pushers. The cons on this watch: well, the markers are quite okay, but they're not as crisp as they could be. The competition Baltany is marginally better, but it is also twice the price. So overall, the quality on this watch is quite good for the price you're paying. The value is really good, but the heritage is sadly a bit low. However, that value part really sells this package. We're going to move from the $100 to the $300 section. And for that price, you have maybe the most famous entry-level mechanical chronograph around, the Military 1963, being a Suggest, a Red Star, or another brand, but which uses the Seagull ST1901 movement. Really important that, because the movement is the heart of this watch. It is a mechanical, hand-wound, vertical clutch, column wheel movement. It It is the most complex chronograph in the whole selection until we reach the $3,000 mark, but it only costs around $120 to $130 depending on if they're having a sale around or not. That is why this watch is so special. They have many sizes now, they have many types of this watch. I measure mine at a little bit over 37 millimeters. They sell it as a 38. You've got 40s and 42s as well. I've got the sapphire version. You've got an acrylic as well, but mine is around 13.1 millimeters in height, 47 in lug to lug, which makes it wear okay on pretty much every male wrist, and you've got 20 millimeters in lug to lug. The quality is good for the price, although these movements are quite fragile and some of them have a tendency to fail, so be careful not to be too rough on these old ladies. The value here is exceptional at $100 to $130 for column wheel mechanical watch with good quality. It is exceptional, really unheard of. That is why I keep on talking about this watch all the time, and I'm not the only one. The heritage, however, is slow if they're not piggybacking on the whole actual 1963 made for the Chinese army in 1963. This is only a recreation of that watch, so yeah, on that part I'm not giving them the heritage. I talked to you about the Militado, now I'm going to talk about the Baltic. And the Baltic is like the Militado but on steroids. Everything is going to be crisper, better made. It is overall a better watch, but it also costs twice the price of the Militado. However, it will have as a positive one of the best sapphire crystals that you have in watchmaking. It is that good. Excellent anti-reflective treatment. A domed sapphire crystal. Really, really good. As a whole, the quality is really good. The value is really good as well. But the heritage, like the Militado, is, let's face it, low, if not inexistent. Let's jump to the less than $500, so from $300 to around $500. And here, the best watch, without hesitation, is the Bulova Lunar Pilot. I see that 370, sometimes they go as high as 500, but the 45mm version, which is a big beast, let's face it, goes for around that price. 45 in diameter, 13.4 in height, 52.8 in lug to lug, so really big, and 20mm in lug width. The pros, it is the heritage here. This is the other Moonwatch. This is one of the only two watches with the Omega Moonwatch to have walked on the moon. During a 1971 Apollo mission, I think it was Apollo 16 or 17, on the wrist of Dave Scott. This was his personal watch that he put on when his official Omega Speedmaster's crystal popped. So he used his own watch, which he later sold for $1.4 million at auction. The pros are, of course, inside this watch beats a high accuracy quartz movement, which helps keep the watch accurate to around a few seconds a year. Also, when you use the chronograph, you've got that amazing high frequency quartz, allows you to count the milliseconds, which is great. Here, with that sapphire, with those materials, the quality is good, the value is really good for such a legendary watch to cost what it costs. It is quite a feat, but the heritage here for the asking price is really exceptional. What about the $500 to $1,000? And here I'm at a bit of a loss to suggest to you good watches. Maybe you can suggest them, because the best watches, the best chronographs either cost more or cost less, as we have seen. I can only think about the original Seagull 1963 made by Seagull, and here you've got all the heritage that comes with it. The downside with this watch is that you cannot see the movement. They don't have a transparent back, and the same Bulova Lunar Pilot that we discussed, but in 43mm. So you get one of the cons that we discussed with the previous one kind of solved, although Bulova left us scratching our heads. Why a 43 and not a 40 or even a 41? I don't know, but it is better than a 45 in any case. At less than $3,000, so from $1,000 to $3,000. The story here is quite interesting because this was a vintage vintage watch from Longines from the early 20th century that Longines had no idea about. It was a watch enthusiast that showed it to them actually, and then they went on and revived that watch and went on to win the GPHG Revival Award in 2017. The watch is not a small one, 41mm in diameter, 48.7 in log to log, and 14.5 in height. The pros here, it has to be, of course, the aesthetics of the watch. It is a beautiful watch with that big eye, so enlarged seconds counter, and that movement. You've got column wheel movement in here, made by ETA solely for Longines though, so it is kind of in-house. It has 67 hours of power reserve, and it is a column wheel chronograph. If you want me to explain why a chronograph is a complex movement or why column wheels are preferable to cam chronographs, please do let me know. I'll make a video all about that. The cons about this watch, first of all, it is a little large, and then I am not sure that I enjoy that greenish lume on the numerals. I would prefer it to be all white or even to have some faux patina, but it is the way it is and it doesn't detract too much from the aesthetic of the watch. And the quality of the watch is really good with those beautiful finishings on that case. The value is exceptional to get such a high quality watch with such a movement from a historic company. Even though it belongs to the Swatch group, Longines was a behemoth and it is claiming its place back slowly but surely, steadily, and the heritage of this watch, being a vintage model, is really good actually. So it might be one of my favorites from this whole selection. From the $3,000 to the $6,000, you've got, of course, the Tudor Black Bay Chrono. And this is just not another Black Bay. This one is quite special. It caused quite a stir when it came out a few years ago because it embarks the Breitling B01 movement inside it. And everybody was like, yeah, it is not a manufacturer movement. Well, that is not a bad thing because the B01 inside the Navitimer, which we will discuss later, is a column wheel movement with 70 hours of power reserve. And this watch cost around the $5,500 mark, which compared to the over 9,000 of the new Navitimer with the same movement, almost sounds like a bargain. You've got a case of 41mm by a pretty high 14.4 in height and 22mm in lug width. The pros, I talked about the almost bargain price, especially with that movement and being from Tudor. That movement has 70 hours of power reserve and the watch is 200 meters water resistant. You had lately a version with the pink dial, which was a special edition for the Miami team, which sold out in seconds and is now going like for over 10,000. So yeah. The cons about this watch, all of its kindred of the black base, it is quite thick, and especially it's not hiding that thickness like others. It is slab-sided and some people do not like that design trait. Here the quality is really good, as pretty much every watch at this price point should be. On this watch, Tudor really improved that bracelet, and now you've got that T-lock, I believe it is called, a T-adjustment, which is really actually quite good. The value is really good as I discussed it, and the heritage, well, this is Tudor. They have been going from strength to strength ever since 2012 when they released the first Black Bay. So yeah, from the $6,000 to the $10,000 mark, you've got no other than the Speedmaster, the Omega Speedmaster, the famous Moonwatch, unarguably the most famous chronograph ever. The Daytona hides in shame compared with this watch. You've got the famous dimensions of 42mm by 47.2, 13.5 in height and 20mm in lug width. The design of this watch is really good. You think that the Submariner has not changed enough in in the last 60 years or 70 years since its inception. Well, look at the Moonwatch. It has not changed pretty much at all, except for the bracelets. And that is testament to a really great design since the beginning. But the biggest pro here is of course the heritage. This is of course the first watch worn on the moon, as we all know it, and Omega loves to repeat. And this original Moonwatch has not been too tarnished by the 100,000 different versions that Omega has released during the years. This is the only one, the only real one, the Moonwatch with the headlight crystal. Why insist on that? Because this one costs $7,000 and the one with the sapphire sandwich is way more expensive. Here in Europe it's like 8,800 euros. Really forget about it, it is not worth it. Go for the original one, go for the real Moonwatch. Headlight is the way to go with this one. Why am I saying that? It is not because I'm a purist, but everything about this watch is about heritage. So if you cannot have the original design, then it is not worth having this watch. However, independently from that, in the last years, Omega have been making small, almost invisible and positive tweaks to it. The movement, first of all, from the 861s that my version has to the 1861 that was sold for decades, it has put the 3861 in here, which is certainly still a cam chronograph, based of course on the 861s and the 1861s after them, but it is now meta certified, anti-magnetic, it is modern life proof, let's say, and the bracelet that they have developed is actually quite good. So kudos to you, less kudos to the increasing in price. When I bought mine, of course it was used, it was modern vintage model from 1992. I got it in 2016 for 2,200 euros, and at that time it was going new for about 4,000 or something like that, 4,000 euros. Now, as I said, this one is going for $7,000, which is, let's face it, quite a lot. I am glad that they put some incremental updates here to kind of justify those price hikes, but anyway, it does feel like too much, and the sapphire sandwich version for $9,000 certainly is too much. So about the Moonwatch, the quality is really good, especially with that new bracelet and movement. The value is quite good, especially on the headlight. I cannot believe I'm saying that about a $7,000 watch. And the heritage here, it is exceptional. In this below $10,000 section, you're gonna see that I will not talk about the Navi timer, and that is for two reasons. First of all, because they do not offer it anymore in the blue dial with the white subdials, which was arguably the best looking one. They're not offering on a 43, just on a ridiculous 46. Why? Why would you do that? Or yeah, sorry, there is one version, but it costs 14,000 euros and it has diamonds. What is that about? And number two, it has the same movement as the Tudor, almost twice the price. So no Navi timer in this selection. The last watch of the selection is going to be the Zenith El Primero Chronomaster. You know the story about El Primero, which should sadly be named El Tercero, actually, or at the best El Segundo. Let me know if you want me to talk about that special story here. It is quite a long story full of twists and claims and counterclaims and counterclaims, well, you name it. The pros about this watch is that it is really good looking. I love those colors on those subdials. It is a very good looking watch. It is not a high horology watch, let's face it. It is quite a sporty watch still. It is well made, but especially it is technologically impressive because of that El Primero movement beating at 10 Hz, which means that you can actually count tenths of seconds. A very nice feat that this watch is among the only mechanical chronographs to be able to do. Even with that large and even with that high beat, it manages to get 60 hours of power reserve. Really impressive. Less impressive is the price. This Chronomaster non-sport version is almost $10,000 base price on a leather strap, and you can go much more than that. Is it worth it? Not to me, let's face it. So it is much too expensive for what it offers, even though it is one of the legendary chronographs out there. And I am of course skipping the Daytona because it It is not actually $14,000 or $15,000. You cannot get it at that price. You will have to get on a huge waiting list. So forget it. I'm only talking here about watches that you can manage to get. The El Primero, the quality is really good, about the same as the other luxury watches in this selection from the $3,000 onwards. The value is not good though, you're paying too much for what you're getting, and the heritage here is also exceptional. That's been it for the review. I hope it was useful. Please do let me know what other watches you would have put in this list. Thank you so much. If you like chronographs, I'm gonna leave you here with some other great chronographs that I have seen, and I'm gonna leave you here with other watches that I do not recommend at all. Don't fall for the trap. Thank you very much, and I'll be seeing you very soon. Goodbye.